Hello, I'm Seth Frey. Welcome to the demo for Module 2. Today we're going to build, you'll be able to use a kitten meme detector. It's going to take pictures off the internet. You can plug in the URL for any picture on the internet, and you should get a little true or false if it's kitten. Now, in the process, we're going to learn what an API is. That's a bunch of acronym. Sounds complicated. It's not too bad. We're going to explore kitten pictures on the internet. We're going to access the internet from the computer, from Python. We're going to, instead of going online through the browser, we're going to go online through Python, through code. And that's what a lot of this class is going to be. So this is a really nice, clean, pretty straightforward introduction to all of that in code that works, that you can run, edit, tweak, and play around with yourself. This code is going to tend to be a little more complicated than the lesson code. So I'm not asking you to understand it. I'm not going to give you little snippets of it on the exam and say, oh, what does this do? What does this do? What does this do? That level of getting involved in the code is going to be in the lessons. But the demos, I want you to come in more at the level of being able to skim it, kind of get the gist, not totally understand everything, but see that it's doing something useful and interesting and fun. That's the level of engagement I want in the modules. Now, we're going to start. So what's an API? So your browser is your window onto the internet. You open a browser and you can interact with the internet through it. An API is the browser is for code. So browser is to human as API is to code. API is literally just like a bunch of simple rules. It's kind of like a standard that some computer out on the internet follows and publishes, so that if your computer follows those rules, it can access the information on that computer. APIs are a way, a sort of standardized way of encouraging your programs, your little bits of code to interact with other people's computers, because people like to share their data. So this is part of the culture, the open culture of the internet. We're going to start off with a really nice simple illustration of what an API is. It sounds like it'd be something really fundamentally different from a browser, right? Like the computer's experience is going to be really different from your experience. And for the most part, that's true, but we're going to start off with a really nice, clean API where your experience and the computer's experience are pretty comparable. They line up pretty nicely. And that's going to make it for a great introduction to the idea of an API. That API is available at placekitten.com, which provides both a human interface and a computer interface, and it's going to let us switch back and forth between those hats or those lenses, so that we can really compare and contrast and see what's going on. So let's go to placekitten.com. Welcome to placekitten.com. What's the point of it? It generates kitten sizes. You give it a size, a height, and a width. You can also say grayscale or not, if you want it in color or not, and it'll just return that picture. For example, this is the front page of the site, and it's encouraging us to take this text and paste it in. Or we can just add a slash 200, then a slash 300. Hit enter. And what do I get? What I get is a picture that's 200 pixels wide and 300 pixels tall. If I were to change that to 800, I would get 800 wide, 300 tall. So the height should stay the same, but it'll get a lot wider. Look at that. It's a different kitten picture. So the placekitten.com doesn't tell, you don't get to really pick what picture. You get to pick how tall it is, how wide it is. And we can add, it has this other little thing. And I'm just like changing this URL. If you put G in front, you get the grayscale version of a kitten that size. So that's the whole thing. This is what an API is. An API, I told you, it's a standard that a website publishes. That if your computer follows those rules, that standard, then it can access the structured information on that other computer in a structured way. So here's the API for placekitten.com. You put the URL, And then you may or may not put a G if you do or don't want grayscale images. Then you put a number that's going to be the width of the image. Then you put another slash, and then you put the height, and that's the whole thing. And you get a different picture every time. And so if we teach Python how to go to to send URLs out to the internet and get whatever gets sent back to them, then we've done it. We've implemented the placekitten.com API in Python, which that's a pretty cool sentence. That sounds really complicated. That sounds like someone who knows what they're doing would do. You don't know what you're doing, but you just did it, which is a pretty nice way to slide through. So let's go back to the notebook. So we just did it. We tried a couple different versions of this URL, and we got different pictures. Okay, great. So let's just do the same thing in code now. You're going to run this boilerplate code. This will get you set up. Once you've run it, I'm going to take you through the parts. I'm providing a couple functions for you. So you type the name of the function, you type your open close parentheses, and you type the inputs to that function, and you'll get something back. One I'm providing, it's placekitten.com URL. That's the name of the function. What's it do? It gives you a placekitten.com URL. You input the height and width, or the width and height of the picture you want, and it returns the URL that you should plug into your browser. So if I copy that, I should get an 800 by 600 image at placekitten.com. I just copied and pasted. There we are. How nice. There's a nice big picture. And actually, we got 4 for the price of 1. We got several kittens. That's adorable. All right. Another function I'm giving you is URL to image. This is a special function. This function is going to go to the internet and pull pictures down from the internet and put it on your computer. So Python, you can assign to different kinds of things to a variable. We've seen that you can assign numbers to a variable. We'll see that you can assign text to a variable or other kinds of objects to a variable. One type of thing you can assign to a variable is a literal picture. So the third function I'm going to give you takes a picture assigned to a variable and prints it out to the screen. So we're going to have one that produces a URL given height and width. A second that given a URL produces a picture. And a third that given a picture produces a visualization of that, shows that picture, prints that picture. So here it is all together. Our first step, we're going to get a URL and assign that to this variable. So we're assigning this text of the URL to a variable. It's called a string. You're going to learn all about it. Then, given that URL, we're going to fetch the image associated with that URL and assign that to a variable called kittenpic. Then we're going to print out kittenpic. Ready? We go. And this line right here is actually going to go to the internet. So it's hard to tell lines apart, which ones do fun stuff, which ones do boring stuff, which do amazing stuff, which are just kind of mundane. So I kind of have to do a little hand-holding in the beginning. This line does something cool. This literally goes to the internet. When you hit it, Python is going to run over to the internet somewhere else, pull data down, and give you access to that data. When I run this, I print out my kitten picture. Look at that. The same one is because it's the same dimensions, 800 by 600. And of course, if I tweak the dimensions a little bit, 600 by 800, what's that going to be? The first number is the width, second is the height. So I should get one that's the same number of pixels, but it's taller than it is wide. Great. Very cute. And of course, 801 is different than 800. We're going to get a slightly wider picture. It's going to be a totally different picture. And we can get small pictures. So what's 75? How big is 75 pixels? It's about an inch. Look at that. Okay, so we got big kittens, little kittens, all pretty much with the same code. We copy paste this code, and if you copy paste this code, so you're going to press a little plus. You're going to paste it in. You're going to pick some other dimensions. What's the smallest kitten picture that still looks like a kitten? I don't even know. Is 20 by 20 going to even look like a kitten? Oh, that's really tiny. Whoa. I'm looking, guys. I don't know. No, wait. Oh, I see it. Yeah. There you go. 20 by 20. It's not too small for kittens. Okay, that was fun. We went to the internet. We did something. We pulled data down from the internet, and because we pulled it down, that gives us the power to change it, manipulate it, work with it. It's data. Anything we pulled from the internet is data that we can now do data stuff on. So what's something we want to do? Well, I gave you access to some code when you ran the boilerplate code. You got access to a computer vision or machine learning library. Whoa, that sounds complicated. What that is a bunch of functions that take data and let you ask questions about the data. So what I've got here is a function. It's going to be called locate object, and it's going to take your image that you got, whatever image you got, and it's also going to take this sort of filter, this detector. And it's this specific detector detects cat faces in photos. So locate object is going to take the image, it's going to take the thing you want to find in the image, and it's going to return if that thing's in the image, and if so, where in the image is it? It's actually going to edit the image to show us where that thing is. So it's just 3 lines of code. Now there's a lot more code under the hood, but you don't have to think about that. You get to just run the code and see it do fun stuff. Let's run it. Okay, so this looks just like the normal kitten picture before. What that's going to mean is that the detector did not find the kitten in this photo. You'd think that would be pretty hard to miss, but these are not perfect. They take trial and error. This is a research frontier, so we're just going to try a couple times. I'm just going to get a different image by changing the number. Nope, can't tell that one. Just going to go a little higher. No, not yet. Oh, there we are. Look, see that big blue box? The kitten detector found a kitten in this image, and that's kind of precious. That's special. We can go smaller. We'll see how we do. I'm just trying stuff out. I'm just changing the value. Oh, it's the same picture. Interesting. And it found a kitten there as well. Okay, so you can play around and see how good the detector is. But this functionality I gave you, we can do other stuff with it. So this function, for example, URL to image, we've been using it to take this sort of placekitten.com URL, but really any URL that points to, that ends in .gif, .jpg, .png, or any other image file, any link on the internet that ends in a file, you can plug in as input to URL to image. So I dug around the internet for some kitten memes. I found this one. I just put double quotes around the string of the text of the URL. That's how we represent it. We're going to plug that into URL to image. Oh, let's take a look at it first. What are we getting into? I'm just pasting it in. Oh, wow, that's pretty special. Yeah, I remember this one. It's good, right? That's adorable. Okay, so is there a kitten in there? I don't know. We'll run the code. Same code as before, we just put a URL in. And so this code is the basic element of a kitten meme detector. You would have some pipeline that pulls a bunch of URLs down that you think may or may not have kittens in them. You run these 3 lines of code, and for every single one, you can find out if there is indeed a kitten in the picture. So what did we do? We learned that with a little bit of jargon, API, machine learning, URL, we can go onto the internet and do stuff. And that stuff corresponds to the type of thing we might do in our own browser, except it's automated. Everything is happening behind the scenes. So we're teaching, by web scraping, by writing Python that can search the internet, by writing code that can search the internet, we're teaching it to do, or walking it through doing the kind of thing we do in a way that's, thousands of times faster, that we can automate and scale. And this ends up being the beginning of what we understand is big data, or data science, or web science. So I hope you enjoyed that. Again, you are totally relieved of feeling intimidated by this code. You don't have to understand it. You just run it and enjoy what happens. Read the explanations and bask in the glow that you kind of just did something useful. And this is code that you can run and do all kinds of things with as you get better. So with that, thank you very much. So long.